Bathurst, 207 kilometres west of Sydney and Australia's oldest inland settlement. Boomtown Bathurst was the centre of the New South Wales gold rush back in the 1850s, and there are still many reminders of that era to be found there today. The grab for gold continues in another vein at Bathurst today. Men have been bringing their machines to nearby Mount Panorama for over half a century. The mountain is a unique public road course measuring 6.172 kilometres. The peak of Panorama is 830 metres above sea level, and there's a rise of 200 metres between the starting line and Castrol Tower. The fastest part of the course is Conrod Straight, 1.86 kilometres, where the tourists top 280 k's. 10 seconds away from the start of the 1986 James Hardie 1000 at Bathurst. Racing, and Grice just spread eagles the field. He's gone. And all the cars seem to get away nicely as they head down the front straightaway towards the left-hander. There's Grice chopping straight into the left-hander. And so beautifully he takes it through there as they head up Mountain Straight for the first time. The field goes through without an incident in the first corner. We've got a safe start to the 1986 James Hardie Classic as they head up Mountain Straight towards Bridgestone Corner. Just look at the field sweeping. Grice all the way to the floor, leads the Turbo Nissan of Gary Scott. Larry Perkins running in third place. George Fury is fourth. And you can wait as they go through Bridgestone Corner and work their way up to the BP cutting for the reaction as Australia's Commodore leads the Turbo Challenge across the mountain for the first time. Grice, Scott, Perkins, then George Fury in fourth place. Up down to BP cutting and the climb to the top of the mountain.
A command, Pete Brock in 05, who had to come from 11th position, an unaccustomed position for him on the grid, and he's already making up ground into about 6th position on the race pack. Through they go, Grice, Scott, Larry Perkins, Fury, up to the top of the mountain. Fans on their toes as they go over for the first time under real race conditions for 86. My gee, look at the lead that Grice has opened up.
Grice absolutely flying. He's using his 17-inch Yokohama tyres. And the tail end of the skyline really starting to float around. Behind Brock we had John Harvey in the number 3 Mobile Commodore, then Dick Johnson, behind him John Bowe and Graham Crosby. This is second place, Perkins is third. And there's the leader, Allan Grice, with around about a 2.5 second gap as he leads on to Conrod Straight. It's the shot from race cam, midway down Nissan Conrod Straight, coming around to end lap number 1 of 163, and it's Allan Grice in the lead in car number 2, the Chickadee Commodore. Behind him in car number 15 will be it should be Gary Scott in the Nissan, that's correct. Then we've got Larry Perkins in 11, a gap then back to John Harvey and Peter Brock. One of the Benzes in trouble. That's car number 14, Franz Klammer and Denny Holm.
He's glanced the safety wall. There's 29, even with bigger problems backing down the road.
Now that's the Van Ommen and Meidecke car. So Jorg Van Ommen getting out. Peter Brock very close to the back of the 15 car. And there's the shot from race cam. So Peter Brock goes from a position 11 up to second place in the race after only 2 laps. What a performance from him. Oh, Roberto Ravaglia, Dieter Questa BMW into the fence. That's Roberto stepping over the concrete wall, and the front of the BMW looking very second-hand. What a tragedy. And after 2.5 laps of the James Hardie, the International Challenge fizzing. Oh, Mike Bergman, car number 33, has had a big one down Conrod Straight underneath the JPS bridge. The car has rolled. Bergman started in the car. Melrose was the rookie driver to have co-driven with him.
Ambulance officers on the scene of the accident, and it's been a bad one, with Mike Bergman, the driver of the number 33 V8 Holden.
And there's His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh speaking with Allan Moffat in the pit area. Because Allan will be able to tell him about the finer points of racing around this Mount Panorama circuit. George Fury, a man with an awful lot of work to do, as we said, in and out of the pits for one quick stop already.
Sensational pictures from Seven's race cam, a new position for 1986.
Here is an interesting little confrontation in the sand trap at the bottom of Conrod Straight. We've got the Mitsubishi Starion of Brad Jones and the Commodore of Warren Cullen.
Brock using 17-inch Bridgestone tyres. .26 seconds gone in this stop. Car's now been dropped. Moffat grabbing first gear. Moves away 33.04 seconds. The stop for Peter Brock and Allan Moffat, but the car very reluctant to get mobile once more. Now it's away. Oh, not a bad stop either. 22 seconds. Car number 30.
And here's one of the Merc 190s. The only one left in the race, of course. And Richard, it's the first time we've had the opportunity to see these cars race in Australia.
Yeah, Denny Holm at the wheel at the moment. In Europe, they tend to run a slightly different class structure. Here you have a 2 to 3 litre class. In Europe, it's 1600 to 2.5 litre, and they compete against the 325i BMWs. It's been a very interesting race all year long between the Mercedes and the BMW, and at the moment it looks to be a man called Winnie Voigt in one of the Works 325i's that's got the better of the Mercedes and is in fact leading the European Touring Car Championship at the moment.
Oh, and Peter McLeod in trouble in car number 4. This is McPhillamy at the end of the Castrol sand trap, and the front right-hand side of his car demolished. He's gone into... Well, I have a feeling I might be doing a disservice to Peter because I think he came in and handed over to Glenn Clark. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I know the car made a stop.
Your thoughts about picking up cars around the circuit and taking them back into the pits?
Yeah, this is one of the areas, of course, which is totally different here to what you have in Europe. If you go off the road in Europe, then that's where you stay unless you're in a dangerous position. You might get pushed out of the way, but there's no way you get it back and get back in the race. And look at the Japanese driver there, really all but losing the lot there in number 53, the Steran, which so much was expected.
Jaguar won at Mount Panorama last year, but I don't think Jag is going to win this year. Muir in the Goss number 10 car with the trunk up, door open, looking for help. The car is stationary on its way up the mountain straight. Coming up behind the Mercedes, blacks out little to the V8 Commodore in sheer power down Conrod Straight. Moffat coming up behind George Fury. This one still looks very, very steady indeed under brakes. There's Bailey going through in number 2.
Peter Brock standing by with the crew. We'll get the stopwatches ready for this and see what sort of a stop they can do. So far they've been very efficient. Moffat out, Brock in. With a shot from our second race cam in the side of the car.
Down.
Peter Brock out of the pits 6 minutes and 10 seconds stationary while they removed and bypassed the oil cooler.
This race is like the Irishman that won the Tour de France. I tell you, he had to go on a lap of honour.
Now, what's the shape of the car like after you've got back in? Has Greg look after it for you?
Oh, you better believe it, mate. She's brand new.
He's a good operator.
Yeah, he's a good operator. The water temperature's no different. The oil temperature's still the same.
We didn't get a chance to do any split times on him, but how competitive was he with your times?
Yeah, he was doing 23s and 24s. And boy, is there some oil here. Huh.
Yeah, what's the state of the circuit like?
Well, it was all right.
Well, one of your mates in a Ford Mustang, the Anderson brothers, have just spun off into the entrance to the pits.
Well,
and you'll be pleased to know that the Wilmington Janssen Jaguar XJS was also in a bit of strife down there. No, Bailey's off in car number 2. Unbelievable bad luck for Graham Bailey. Now, what exactly does that do to the race order? They had a fair buffer up their sleeve. Allan Grice, meanwhile, has pulled his helmet on and he's standing by to get in the car. Okay, we'll set the stopwatches here and see what sort of a stop Les Small's Roadways team can do. Allan Grice standing by.
It would seem likely to me that what was happening was that the oil is coming out and got on the tyres, which is why he spun.
What is going to be interesting, Harvey is now at the top of Conrod Straight.
Yep.
So that big gap, that big buffer of the lap, and then a bit.
Been in the pits now for exactly 1 minute and 50 seconds. They've fired the engine. Out with all of the standby tripods. The jacks are up.
Here comes Harvey along pit straight. Mobile dealer team flags up in the air. Grice heads out the pit lane.
Oh, well, this will be really interesting.
This will put them on the same lap.
And remember that Harvey is at race speed. Grice is going to have to reach it. He spent 2 minutes and 6 seconds in the pits.
There he goes. That's Grice pulling out in front of Harvey. Harvey has spotted the back of the Chickadee Commodore, and Cross in for the ride too as they head up Mountain Straight. And here they come. Out of BP, heading up to the top of the hill. Harvey down the inside of the BMW. Grice just backs out of there for a moment. Richards gives, I think it's Richards, gives racing room on the inside. And what a race we've got going after 105 laps with all the dramas of today. And this is the gap between first and second in the 86 James Hardie Classic. And Grice on the outside, what a move! Takes him coming across the top of the mountain. So Allan Grice takes back the lead in the James Hardie 1000. Harvey still in second, and third is Garry Scott in the Nissan.
And in the pits, that's the Lusty brothers, Commodore, Graham and John Lusty. Something wrong with the gear shift, the gear lever. I think they've changed it during that changeover. Driver change as well. That's car 23.
Graham, what happened? The gear lever broke.
The gear lever off when I was supposed to change over to John last time, and we had to grab a set of multi-grips, and I've been changing gears with multi-grips for the last 20-odd laps. But anyway, we're still out there and going. We've got a gear stick back in it now.
They might be dusty, but they're certainly not rusty. Car number 3 in the pits, the second of the Mobile dealer team cars. John Harvey and Neil Lowe. Neil stepping out. Looks like Harvey going out now to do the final stint behind the wheel.
Correct.
They're still running third on the racetrack. And John Harvey takes over the car for the sprint to the checkered flag.
Times are tough for the turbos. 44, John Bowe.
And of course, John Bowe and Alfredo Costanzo sharing this car. Their second car, of course, driven by the New Zealanders, Graham McRae and Neville Crichton. We got some pictures of Dr. Eric and Bev and everyone in the pits following you going around the circuit. You want to send them a wave?
Yeah, down here.
Yeah.
How are you?
Super. Oh, we've had one upside down in the bottom turn. Car number 87. Goodness gracious.
Yes, it's the Brian Bolwell, Tony Farrell BMW 323. And it looks as though he's just lost it under brakes coming into the bottom at Conrod, and the front wheel has caught the inside ripple strip and the car has rolled over.
He's okay though. Steps out of the car. Crowd give him a huge hand. Grice comes out of the corner, acknowledging the flag with 1 lap to go. Heading up mountain straight. There he goes. He's going to get a wave off to everyone before this is over. He's watched so many drivers do this for so many years. Hands are ready at the top of the mountain as Grice heads up to Bridgestone Corner for the final time. And of course, after the race is over, the cars are pulled straight in at the back of the pits, so you don't really get a chance on a cool-down lap to acknowledge the waves of the crowd. Here he comes. Allan Grice, man who went to Europe this year to try and prove something. He certainly has done that, and he's proved an awful lot more here today. As the fans acknowledge, Grice coming across the top, out of Castrol Curve, down to the S's. Through Bridgestone Corner to the dipper for the final time. Now on his way down to the left-hander. And here he comes. Through Valvoline Corner. Nissan Conrod straight for the final time. You can almost coast home to victory from there. Last corner comes up as Grice and the Chickadee Roadways Commodore V8 hits the last turn, straightens it out, checkered flag at the ready, and the Aussie privateer, the battler, cracks it for the Hardie 1000 at Mount Panorama, and the crowd has erupted. He's done it. Allan Grice of Sydney takes the 1986 James Hardie 1000 Classic. Second place will go to John Harvey and Neil Lowe in the Mobile Holden Dealer Team Commodore number 3. Third place will go to Gary Scott and Terry Shield in the Nissan Skyline Turbo number 15. Fourth to Dick Johnson, car number 17. Fifth place to Peter Brock, and sixth place to Jimmy Richards.